and I'll start letting them in. So welcome, guys, as you are starting to come in. Just to make sure everyone is in the right session, this is the Rutgers Business School's Finance Major Session. I am Christine Yanuzzi, in case you haven't caught me for the last 2 weeks, because I've been on every single session. I am the admissions officer for the business school. So I just want to first say congratulations to all of you admitted students. You have done the hard work, you have been admitted, but now what do you need to do? You need to hit that button. And I always say I'm not supposed to say it. Ron could probably fire me for it, but it's just in my DNA. I have to say, hit the button. I wish I had that Staples This Is Easy button. So presenting tonight is Professor Ron Richter. So I'm going to pass it over to him, and he'll introduce some current students that we have on the call with us. I am manning the chat box with Debbie Tody. She works in the undergraduate office as well. So throw your questions in the chat box so that we can let Professor Richter know what's first and foremost on your mind, and that we can get those questions answered tonight. So Ron, it's all you.
Great, thanks, Christine. Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well on this Wednesday evening. I will ask, you don't have to, but if you could throw your videos on, that'd be kind of cool. One of the things that we talk a lot about at Rutgers University, and especially at the business school, is how to network. And the value of seeing a face actually is rather important. I get to know my students, not just by voice, but by picture. And then if I ever see a job opportunity at a place like a Citibank or Bank of America, the people that I connect with are the ones who are probably going to get those opportunities. So keep that in mind as we are still, in this virtual world at the moment. So again, my name is Ron Richter. Thanks, Christine, for introducing me. I've been associated with Rutgers University since actually 1985 as a student, but a professor for about 28 years. My background is not as an academic. I was a practitioner. I'll tell you a little bit about it for about a minute here, and then I'll tell you how that plays with your education. I was a corporate finance guy, worked my way up to be a chief financial officer at a couple companies. Then I got into wealth management, which I have a practice right now with about 30 clients and manage about $40 million in assets. About a year ago, it was 30 million, but the market's come back. So I'm happy about that, since that's how I get paid. So that was all good. And I've been a professor at Rutgers University for a long time, mostly as an adjunct, but now full time. The reason I tell you my background is in the finance department, and you'll see this in other departments also, we have two types of professors. We have full tenured research professors. These are the people that are maybe experts in that field and research in that field. And that gives you as an opportunity as a student to work with some of them. Even though I'm not a research professor, I've written a number of case studies, and I've gotten students involved in helping me write some of those case studies. Then you have professors like me. We call ourselves professors of professional practice. We're the ones who've done the work. So I think when you come to Rutgers Business School, you get a nice mix. You get a mix of the research, people who have studied things like in finance, maybe how the stock market works, or how companies issue debt or issue equity in the marketplace, and how does that affect the value of the company. And then you get a bunch of practitioners who have been either bond traders or equity traders, or people like me who've been on the corporate finance side and also on the investment side with wealth management. So I think you get a nice little mix of professors when you come here at Rutgers University. I am very lucky today. I do have some students with me who can give you kind of the real deal, right? What's it like being a finance student? So I have a couple students here. One is Hira Hussein, and the other one is Gabe Vinogradov. So what I'd like to do is, Hira, maybe you can just introduce yourself to the group.
Yeah, sure. So thank you. So hi, everyone. My name is Hira. I'm currently a senior. I'm a finance major. I'm actually a double major with finance and our BAIT major at RBS, which is which is Business Analytics and Information Technology. So if you have questions about that, I can answer that too. And a little bit about me is I'm from Marlboro, New Jersey. So if anybody's from Monmouth County, give me a shout out. I'm in the student government here at Rutgers. I'm pretty involved. I'm also in the Rutgers Center for Women in Business, which is this new center, part of our business school, which works to build community amongst women, empower women, remove barriers, things like that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys.
Great, thanks, Hira. Gabe, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, I'm Gabriel. I'm a senior at Rutgers Business School, majoring in finance and minoring in economics. I don't know if any of you are from Bergen County. I'm from Fairlawn. So Bergen County, raise the hands. Maybe, no, okay, guess not. So as I mentioned, finance major, economics minor. So I'm the president of Young Americans for Liberty. I'm the social media manager for Rutgers Riot Squad, and I'm also involved in LIBOR. So Young Americans for Liberty is a political club. Rutgers Riot Squad is the official supporters section, the student section of Rutgers Athletics. So we're at the front, we're in the front rows of every home basketball and football game. And then LIBOR is Little Investment Bankers of Rutgers, which is like one of the main finance clubs here at Rutgers Business School.
Great, thanks,
So,
Gabe.
Nice to meet you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Gabe. So as Christine said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to chat them out. Christine and Deb will probably interrupt me, which is fine, and say, hey, Ron, we got a question that you guys really want to hear. I think I know what you want to hear, but I'm a 55-year-old guy. I may get that wrong. So feel free to ask any questions about being financed. And just as a note, Gabe and I met when Gabe was a high school student. I helped run, along with Deb Tody, who's on the call here, our Rutgers Business School summer camp. And so I met Gabe when he was in high school, and I've gotten to see him progress extremely well during his time here at Rutgers University. So very proud of Gabe. All right, so let me share with you. I'm going to take you through a little bit what kind of the opportunities are in finance. Because when students say I want to major in finance, and I ask them like, so what do you want to do? They go, finance. And I'm like, no, there's so many things you could do. So let me show you little things that you can do. And then I'm going to take you through a little bit story about IPOs that will take about 5 minutes. And then I will go through the actual curriculum as a finance major. So let me get this up on the screen. Bear with me here. And Christine, if Natalie does make it, let me know and we can introduce Natalie too, okay? All right, so you should see on the screen, my PowerPoint slide says what it's like to be a finance major. You guys see that? Cool. All right, so let's take you through some slides here. So where can you focus in finance? So there's many, when you say finance, it can mean a lot of things, students. So I broke it down into 3 areas. One area is banking, and I call this sort of the sales side of finance. These are the people who are providing services. The institutions are providing services to individuals so they can manage their own finances, or the Johnson & Johnsons and the Microsofts of the world. And in banking, you can actually, there's sub areas that you can get involved in. So you can get in what we call originations or IPOs. IPOs stand for initial public offerings. You may have heard about this if you're into the stock market, sort of like when Airbnb went public, selling their stock to the public for the first time, or Uber is a fairly recent one that we all know. Trading. Trading is actually trading, and it focuses on many areas. You can trade in stock, you can trade in bonds, you can trade in currencies, you can trade in commodities like oil and gold and silver. You can trade interest rates using these things called derivative products that you would learn about if you were a finance major. These are what we call front office jobs. When you do the trading, you usually are trading for the account of the bank. And sometimes the bank will let you take a little risk with that. And hopefully you'll do well when you do that type of trading. Banks kind of act as Match.com, if you guys know, setting up 2 people together, but they get involved in mergers and acquisitions. So when like one of my clients, he owns Microsoft stock, and Microsoft just announced late last week, that they're buying this company called Nuance, right? So who's going to get involved in that? The banks are going to be involved. The banks are going to be involved in trying to help companies merge with others or acquire other companies or spin off divisions. Like when McDonald's years ago spun off Chipotle, it used to be part of McDonald's, now it's its own company. So banks help with that. They know the markets, they know the investment community. They also get involved in financial risk management. So they sell products to the corporates being like the J&Js and the Microsofts and the Exxons. And there's a lot of risk that these companies have. They have risks. If you think of Exxon, they have the risk of oil going up and down in price. They have the risk of currencies going up and down against other currencies. And all of that affects their cash flows. It affects their profitability. So banks help those companies manage those risks. Treasury services, which is kind of my area of expertise. This is how companies pay bills and collect money. Now, it sounds pretty simple, but it starts to get complex when you deal with a large multinational where those bills that are being paid are in different currencies, they're paid over time. So currency fluctuations have an issue, and they collect money from around the world, right? So the banks very much help in the treasury services, which is really the paying of bills and the collecting of money, to keep it very simplified. And then they also help in credit and investments. Credit is loaning money to companies, and investments is investing the money for these companies. So if a company has excess cash, they call up a bank and they invest that money for even as short as term as a day. We call that the overnight market. And they can also borrow from those banks. So here are a listing of some of the banks that our students get jobs in. I work very, very closely with Citibank. And I'm very proud to say that over the last 5 years, we went from 0 interns to last year we had 23. So we've had a great relationship with Citibank over the years. And I bring them into my classroom, and I know other people use them in the classroom. But you can see some of the banks. You've probably heard of some of them, like JP Morgan and PNC Bank or Bank of America. So these are just a small list of where some of our students get jobs. Then we have on the corporate finance side. So as the second leg of where you could enter into finance is working with companies and helping those companies grow and being the financial people behind that. So some of the areas you're going to see on this list are the opposite of banking. Remember, banking is the sell side. The corporates then would be on the buy side. So domestic and international cash management, you can get very much involved in. Investing and borrowing and liquidity management. Now, this is kind of the bread and butter of a company. A company needs liquidity. Liquidity is how quickly we can get cash. So companies have to operate every single day. And when companies do poorly, or they go bankrupt, you may know some names like a Radio Shack or a Sears, it's because of their liquidity. They could not borrow money anymore. But you in corporate finance are working with the banks, working with the investment community to make sure that your company has enough cash, and we call that liquidity. Just like the banks offer financial risk management services, on the corporate finance side, you need to manage the risk of your business on those financial risks. That would be currency fluctuations, commodity fluctuations like oil, gold, silver, if you use that in your product or service, and then also interest rates. We raise capital, which is capital we call money, right? So banks or companies need money. If you think back to Shark Tank, right? And they go into Mr. Wonderful and they go into Mark Cuban and Lori and say, we need money, right? Those little businesses are trying to raise money. Well, big businesses have to raise money too. They need the money to grow. They need money to grow to make their strategic plan. So in corporate finance, we decide how much stock to issue versus how much debt to issue, right? And how are we going to get our money? And that's rather important. We do long-term investments also. So depending on what company you work for, they may make some long-term investments that could be for 5 years, 10 years, even 50 years if it's for a company pension plan. So here are some of the corporate companies that our students get jobs with. So Johnson & Johnson, which sort of owns New Brunswick, right? And have a great relationship with Rutgers University. But some of you should know all of these: Merck, L'Oreal, Unilever, Amazon, Stryker. They have a really cool training program for our students when they graduate. One of our students last year got into it. Stryker makes shoulder replacements, hip replacements, and like beds in hospitals and so forth. But a lot of these companies have some really cool training programs, along with the banks, that when our students graduate, they may have a 1 to 2 or 3 year rotational program that they get into to start to learn the real world. And even before that, many of our students will get internships, definitely in between their junior and senior year, and many between their sophomore and junior year. And I think, Christine, the other day we had a freshman who was getting internships, even in the world of COVID, right? So those are very, very important. The last area is investment management. And under investment management, you can work with private companies who are trying to go public. These are the ones that are more like triples and home runs, if you think of baseball. These aren't like small returns, these are big returns. With those big returns, or with that risk of getting, or the big reward, comes a lot of risk. So some of these private equity funds or money managers also lose. They don't always win on every single thing every bet they make, but you can get involved in those. Hedge funds, you may have heard the term hedge funds if you're somewhat into finance. Hedge funds has many different meanings. We really need to understand the strategy of a hedge fund manager, but they are really making investments. So they collect money from their customers, they invest that money, and they hope to give their customers their money back and some, right? That would be an area that you can get into. Mutual fund companies. These are portfolios of investments, stocks, bonds, combination of those. And you can help run those investment portfolios for companies like Vanguard, Fidelity, Lord Abbett, a bunch of mutual fund houses out there. And then you can also work with pension funds. These are people who are making the investments. If you think of the state of New Jersey, we have one of the largest pension funds in the country, and those are investment decisions that need to be made. So where do our students get jobs? Here are some of the names. You may have heard of a couple of these. Merrill Lynch, I'm assuming you've heard of. Maybe Northwest Mutual. Maybe not Blackstone as much, because Blackstone, albeit it is one of the biggest players in the market, a lot of the things that they sell are not labeled Blackstone. They're labeled other things, okay? But those are some of the companies you can work for. So with that, let me just talk a little about what an IPO is, or an initial public offering, and think of Shark Tank. I'm sure all of you have seen Shark Tank. These three companies went public, meaning that they started to sell their shares to everybody from being a private company. So we in finance teach you that. We teach you how to analyze those companies. We teach you how to value those companies. And we talk about the process of going out to the markets. So an initial public offering is the very first sale of the stock to everybody. So when you think of the New York Stock Exchange, or you think of the NASDAQ exchange, and that stock is being sold, the first time it's sold is what we call an IPO. That's when the company gets their money. They sell their shares and they get the money. After that, it trades in what we call the secondary market, which is the third bullet I have here, meaning that we buy and sell amongst ourselves, but the companies don't get any money anymore, right? But they have this currency now. They have this liquidity. They have this stock that they can use, and they can use it to acquire other companies. They can use it to attract good employees and so forth. So, before a company goes public, it's private, usually a relatively small number of shareholders. And then when they go public, boom, they now have to answer to everybody. And that becomes a whole different ballgame. I've known a number of people who've taken their companies public or deal with public companies, and the way you manage it is dramatically different. And again, we will talk about that if you become a finance major. So why do companies actually sell their shares? Again, think back to Shark Tank. Why do companies need money from Mr. Wonderful and Mark Cuban? It's because they usually needed to grow their business. Like, they've run out of other sources. And to make the next leap, right, we need to figure out how are we going to get that capital. So here are some of the reasons why companies go public. They're trying to maximize their shareholder value. They're trying to increase the value of the firm as much as they can. And they just can't do it with what resources they have. So they need to get money from somewhere. They want to grow that business. That money is going to be used to hopefully grow that business. It creates an acquisition currency for, and liquidity. So here's a quote from Mark Zuckerberg. When Facebook went public, they went out and they raised $16 billion. They can't just get that from one person. Even Warren Buffett doesn't have $16 billion to place that bet. That's too big of a bet. So Facebook goes out to the public markets and tries to get enough from everybody to get 16 billion. But here's a quote from Mark Zuckerberg of why one of the reasons Facebook went public. He says here, we're going public for our employees and our investors. We made a commitment to them when we gave them equity, which is stock, that we'd work hard to make it worth a lot and make it liquid, meaning that you could be able to sell it and then use that cash when you sell it for whatever you want to do as an individual. And this IPO is fulfilling our commitment. So when Facebook goes public, they had some shareholders. He probably gave stock to some key employees. And that's not really meaningful. It's just a piece of paper. But once they go public, now they can sell it. And those people that got the stock can now sell it, and they can get cash, and they can pay for their kids' tuitions. They can buy a home, whatever it is in the marketplace. And the last one is you increase company awareness. So when a company does go public, and if it's definitely a high notarized company like a Facebook, it's going to be on the news all day, right? You're going to see CNBC and Squawk Box. They'll be on the stock exchange talking about what's happening. And that gives, and if things go well, that's good, right? That's good awareness. So I have a chart here. We'll just take a look at a few of these. Like Zoom is one, right? We've all been Zooming. So Zoom went public about 2 years ago. Okay. And if you learn finance, the bankers came out and said, all right, Zoom, we're going to help you go public. Zoom doesn't do it on their own. And the bankers worked with Zoom and they came up with a price of $36 a share. Now, this company, because it wasn't traded publicly, no one really knows, right? You don't know what something's worth until you get a price. So it's $36 a share was the IPO price, but actually it opened on the first day in the markets at $65 a share. So there was a huge bump up. So I think here the bankers may have gotten it wrong in the beginning, right? Because Zoom gets $36 a share, but then immediately it started trading at 65. There was so pent up demand, right, for these shares. And we saw this huge increase. And it closed the first day at $62 a share. Now Zoom went crazy this time a year ago. Crazy, right? Rutgers, we weren't even using Zoom back then. We were using WebEx, and we quickly changed the Zoom in about 2 months because we find it's the easier way of doing it. And I think we're on a Zoom call right now. So finance people help these companies go public to set this IPO price. We also then work with people as it is public to talk about, are the stocks good stocks or bad stocks to buy? So you can be an analyst on Wall Street, evaluate the financial statements, and determine whether these companies are overpriced or underpriced or appropriately priced. So this is just a listing of them, and I'll bring them up in my classroom. We'll talk about them, and we'll kind of go through, what is the analysis to get the IPO price and what has happened since. Some have done well, some have not done as well because of maybe because of COVID, maybe because of investor sentiment, or maybe because the competition has just come in and eaten their shirts, right? Who knows? All right. So with that, what is it like to be a finance major from a curriculum standpoint? So here at the business school, and if you've been at a few of these open house discussions, some of this may sound familiar, but it's always good to hear this again because sometimes our students forget about what are the ultimate requirements. So first thing is we have pre-business requirements here at business school. So it doesn't matter what major you are. If you're going to be a BAIT major, a supply chain or finance major, marketing, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. You have to complete these 6 pre-business requirements, okay? So it's intro to financial accounting, which we just opened up for freshmen this year, actually. You used to have to wait till sophomore year, but now we open up to freshmen. Computer applications for business, intro to micro, intro to macroeconomics, Calc 1, and introductory statistics for business. Once you complete those six, you now can declare a major. So you're not going to come in declaring a major yet. And some of you, if you've got some AP classes and you got 4s and 5s, we do have some students, Christine, right, that can come in and have maybe 5 of these satisfied. I guess if you have AP Comp Sci, right, that's satisfied. So we do have some high flyers that come in with all 5, but don't fear if you don't, that's okay. If you get these done within, actually, even within your first 2 years, your freshman and sophomore year, you're not behind. You're still on a path to get through the curriculum. So this is a total of 19 credits. After that, you declare your major. Now you get to start to take the business core courses that every business major must take, and then you will focus on finance. So let me just show you the core courses first. So it doesn't matter what major you are. It doesn't matter whether you're finance, accounting, marketing. Everybody has to take these classes. Intro to managerial accounting. Business forum, which actually you can take as a freshman. You may be able to get in that class. That's a fun class. It's all about soft skills, a lot about soft skills, interviewing skills. How do you put your resume together? How do you interact with other people? You have a choice of business law or business ethics. You have to take one or the other. If you're an accounting major, you must take business law. Every other major can take business ethics. And Hira, what do you take? Ethics or law?
I didn't have to take law, but I just took it out of interest. I really liked it.
You like law? You recommend
it? That's very rare. Most people take ethics.
Right. Ethics is sort of the easier way. Gabe, what do you take?
I took business ethics.
Okay.
Actually, it was quite interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed learning about, I like the different case studies we did. We did a lot of Harvard case studies. So though it is easier, it's still useful. Like business law might be more applicable to one's career, but I mean, business ethics is still important, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
I think business law is very dense, right?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I've
Yeah,
been told.
it's very, very dense material. So if you're a finance major, so we have 2 financial management classes. We call it financial management. It's really intro to finance. We have one that we call the 300 and the other one 310. For finance majors, we actually carved out, as our school grew, we were getting concerned that our finance majors may get lost in the shuffle. So our 310 class, or I say you must take 310 if you're a finance major, is smaller class sizes, so that we can give a little extra loving care to our finance majors, because that intro to finance course is so important as a foundation for your future courses, okay, in finance. Then we have introductory to management. Again, these are courses everyone will take. Management skills, and again, another soft skills class. And I would argue soft skills are probably the most important thing that you need to learn. Business policy and strategy. This is taken as a senior, and this culminates as the reason why we only let you take it as a senior is because you need the disciplines of understanding management and marketing and finance, because this kind of culminates everything together. That's the idea with what we call BPOL, or business policy and strategy. Then we have MIS, management information systems, statistical methods in business. So this now is building on with the statistics that you already learned to take it to one higher level. And in finance, we use statistics a lot. We definitely use statistics a lot in finance. Operations management, introductory to marketing, and introductory supply chain. So every major takes these courses, and lo and behold, it is a total of 35 credits. So we started off with 19, then we had 35, and now I'll get into the finance major. So as a finance major, again, you can only start taking the classes when you declare, and you have to complete your 6 pre-business classes. We have 3 core courses that every finance major must take. We take corporate finance, derivatives, and investment analysis. And just I'll mention this, not that you guys care too much as a freshman, but there is some sequencing when you take courses in college, that there are what we call prerequisites, that you can't take one course until you've taken a course before. We do have one here where derivatives can only be taken after you take investment analysis, because we believe they build upon each other. I'm just giving you that as an example, because no matter what you major in or whatever school you decide to go to, always be careful of those prerequisites. Make sure you understand what they mean. And then after that, we offer a bunch of electives. In finance, you have to take 4 more elective classes, which is a total of 12 credits. Every class at the business school is 3 credits, except for a few, like business forum and some of the special topic stuff that we have. So here's just a listing of the electives that we currently have. We don't offer them every single semester, and sometimes they change depending on the markets. Okay, so sometimes our professors will be studying something that we think is more relevant, and we will then add that type of class. So you can see this is a mixture of like classes that very much relate to banking, classes that relate to the corporate side, and then there's some that overlap that kind of do both. It's an alphabetical order, so mine is the very last one. That's the one I usually teach, is treasury management, and that's really how does a corporate treasurer at a J&J actually run their business. So here's a total of 21 credits that you would take. So a business major is taking 19 pre-biz, 35 core, and depending on the major, in finance, it's 21. Most of the majors are 21. I think accounting's 24. So I think accounting has an extra class in there, and maybe another one, I don't remember. So that's the curriculum for finance. And then another cool program that we have, and by the way, this is not just open to finance majors, and it's not just open to business school majors, it's open to any major at the university, is this Road to Wall Street program. Now, in saying that, it is, if you looked at the roster of the 50 some odd students that are in it, most of them are finance majors. Okay, it is the Road to Wall Street, for God's sake. So, but it's a cool program. It's a select program. You apply to it your second semester freshman year, and then you're in the program for a number of years. So you can't get into it in your sophomore year or junior year, because you need to get there from the beginning. And people apply, not everybody gets in. The demand for the program is higher than the supply of seats, just so you be aware. The types of things that we learn in the Road to Wall Street, the highlights are, you get some one-on-one counseling, summer training and preparation. So your summertime will not just always be at the beach, it will also be learning different financial modeling. Fall financial modeling and valuation course, something a little differently than our regular finance majors get. Peer and alumni mentor match, and extracurricular involvement. Okay. If you Google, and I'm going to put in the chat the link to the Road to Wall Street, you can see some more information about it. It has been a very good program for our students to get jobs on Wall Street. It's been really, really good for that. But don't fear if you don't get in the Road to Wall Street. There are so many opportunities at Rutgers University. And we have so many finance majors that do fabulous, and they didn't get in the Road to Wall Street, and they're still working on Wall Street. So don't let that deter you if you don't get in. So I'm going to open it up to questions. You have Hira, who's lived it. You've got Gabe, who's lived it. You've got me, who, lucky enough, I have students like Gabe and Hira to make it fun for me. So I'll open up to any questions that you have, and there is my email address. You can always feel free to contact me, as I tell all my students. And if you guys show up to this, if you have me once, you have me forever. You can ask me questions for as long as you want. After this class, email me all you want. Okay. And I will also chat out to you the Road to Wall Street link in a second.
I put it in the chat box, Ron.
Oh, you did. Cool. Thank you. So with that, let me stop sharing. And
okay, Ron, there is a question in the chat about A-level courses that the student took, subjects such as, I think, business statistics, it's ST, accounting, and economics. Would this exempt them from the pre-business the way AP scores of 4 and 5 would?
I don't know. These are A levels or this
A-level.
I already
A-levels.
answered Ron. I
Yeah.
told him to go to first years because with the A levels,
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
not as sure. So he needs to go to Kirsten. So I already answered him.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. If you ask her, yeah, they'll know what to do on that. I'm not that familiar with that. So, come on, potential finance majors, ask questions. You got me, but more importantly, you got Hira and Gabe who can help you out.
I have a question, mainly for you, Mr. Richter. It's pertaining to the electives. So, are there any prerequisites for the electives? Like, can we take them freshman year, or do we have to wait?
No. Yeah. So the electives open up. Most of the finance courses open up after you take financial management. Now, you can't take financial management until you've taken financial accounting. Okay. And you have to declare a major. So you got to get the 6 pre-business done.
Okay.
And then you can take financial management. So usually what happens then, Antonio, is financial management, the earliest you could take it then would be first semester sophomore year. That's the earliest, because you have to take financial accounting. And it's very important to take financial accounting, because if you don't understand what an income statement and balance sheet is, we can't take you to the next level in finance. So the earliest you could take it is your first semester sophomore year. And then after that, most of the other courses start to open up. There's a couple with prereqs, but most of the electives open up at that point. But also keep in mind, you're not just, if you're an RBS student, you're not just taking business school classes. You also have to satisfy the School of Arts and Science core. So our freshmen are usually taking a mixture of the pre-business, and they're also taking a humanities course or a history course or taking some science course, whatever, to try to get all the School of Arts and Sciences kind of, I'll call it the little artsy stuff, out of the way. So.
Okay. Thank you for answering my question, and thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, no problem, Antonio. Cool. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Yep. What else we got? Questions?
I have a question about the finance courses.
Yeah, sure.
Are the required courses always like more harder than the elective courses? What's the difference?
The answer is no, they're not always harder, I think. Well, I don't know. Here, Gabe, you talk about it. You tell them. You experienced them.
I wouldn't say that's the case. I've definitely taken some required courses that are easier than some of the electives. It really depends on which electives you want to take and also which professors you get. Because there are some courses where if you get a good professor, it's an easy A. And there are others where, if I can be honest, if you get a bad professor, it can be complete hell. So if you can, try to plan out your not only the class you take, but the professor you want to take them with ahead of time, so that when it comes time for you to pick your classes, you make sure you get into the best classes, the ones that you want, and also get the best professors.
How do you know like what professors are like good and professors are not?
So one, there's ratemyprofessors.com. it's a really good resource. I wouldn't trust every single review on there because a lot of those kids just didn't really try in class and are insulting the professor only because that student themselves like didn't put in enough effort. But generally, the information on there is good. Also, you can ask your upperclassmen friends on their experiences. So if you make friends who are in the finance major who have taken some of those upper level classes, you can ask them for their experience with a certain professor or course.
Also, some professors teach more than one class. So if you take a professor, you like their teaching style, you connect with them, you can look for what other electives they take. I've had multiple professors. I've had Ron twice. I've had multiple professors for different classes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Varun, I think that, I'll give you the old man answer to that is, if you like the subject, you'll probably more like the professor. And if you don't like the subject, you may not like the professor. It has nothing to do with the professor.
I've just heard
Usually.
about like students. I've just heard about like from students' point of view that sometimes the classes could be a lot more challenging based on the professors as well.
It can be, right? But the challenge could be also more interesting, right? So it all depends. But I think here at Gabe, but talk to your peers. They know.
Mhm.
They know who the ones where you're going to learn from or not. So again, I tell you, I was lucky to have Kira 2 times. I was so happy she took that other class with me because she's a great student. So, all right, what else you got, guys?
We have a question for Hira. They want to know, being that you double major in BAIT and finance, how many extra courses or credits did you have to take to double major?
Yeah, good question. So the BAIT major is actually the same amount of credits as the finance major. I'm pretty sure it's 21 credits. So what is that, 7 classes? Yeah. And yeah, so for the kinds of courses BAIT composed of, like I said, BAIT stands for Business Analytics and Information Technology. So it's not really like a comp sci major. It's like a combination of like a business comp sci major. So you're not going to be, put with comp sci kids. That was something that I was kind of freaked out about. I was like, I can't code that well. I don't know if that's something I want to do, but they teach you like the basics, and they teach you different languages such as R, Python, HTML, but they also teach it in a way that's applicable to business students. They teach you the projects we work on will be business cases, things like that. And so in addition to, because it is an analytics partly major, in addition to having those coding classes, a lot of it is statistics and just like analytical thinking. So I like the major. I actually like the finance major a little better, but that's just me. I know a lot of people who love the BAIT major and they do like it as well, but yeah.
Here, were you able to get done in the same time period, even double major?
Yeah, I was. I came in with a few APs, so that helped. But I know people who didn't come in with APs and they were also able to finish. Might have to take, I don't know, a summer class if you need, but I was able to take like 18 credits and just during a semester and get through. So yeah, it worked out for me.
Great. I think that goes back to what Gabe talked about, team, is that planning, right? If you plan it right, you could get a double major and still get done in 4 years. If you plan it right, no surprises. Okay, what else questions do we have here? I see Marlon, there was a question here. Oh, you responded to it, Christine?
I did. It was about transferring and if they start as a junior and where they'll start. So
yeah,
I did answer that.
Okay, great.
But we did have a question. A student has heard that the supply chain department sends emails to their students every couple of weeks regarding opportunities like internships and externships. Does the finance department do the same?
Well, I think it comes down, at least for the finance, I do. I can tell you I do. I sent about a couple last week, actually. So whenever I get them across my email and I get them from whoever they are, I make sure that my students get it. Do we have a policy in the finance department to do that? Probably no. I don't. I know we don't. We do have our Office of Career Management where you have access to internships and you have access to full-time job opportunities that they will help you with. The one thing I will tell all the students on here: don't rely just purely on OCM. Never rely on an institution for your success. Only rely on yourself. and use the institution to help support you. So I think it depends on the finance professor. I know that the finance professors that are probably more apt to help the students get jobs and find those internship and externship opportunities are the professors of professional practice, the ones that have those networks, as opposed to the academics. So get to know those people. Get to know those people.
If I can add to that, I think something when it comes to like internship opportunities and all that, something good about finance is a bunch of my finance professors in my classes have had guest speakers from a bunch of different companies, a bunch of different backgrounds, and that really helps to hear someone's experience. And I feel like I've had a bunch in my time at Rutgers in my finance classes, and I haven't heard that much about my friends in like marketing, supply chain. So that's definitely something. I think that's a perk of being a finance major.
Yep.
I also wanted to add to that. If you're in any business school clubs, they often will send out internship and job opportunities. So if you get involved in clubs early and get on their email lists, like LIBOR, for example, they're going to send out opportunities like their meetings where they have a guest speaker from an investment bank, and you get to hear that person's career story and ask questions and hopefully make a connection with them that could lead to an internship. So I think you need to take advantage of every opportunity RBS gives you rather than relying on internships to come your way from OCM. They're not going to send you the perfect internship, but if you join clubs that might guide you more to your career path.
Great. There's a question here for here and Gabe. What clubs are you in that they would recommend? What clubs have made a difference for you guys?
Yeah, I can start. I've done a few different clubs in my college career. So Gabe is definitely correct in saying that a bunch of business clubs such as LIBOR, the consulting group, a bunch of those clubs are really, really good resources for networking opportunities, which can lead to internship opportunities. So there are so many, like I could list so many. And you'll hear about them once you come to Rutgers. You'll hear about people just talking about them in classes and people, I don't know, at the involvement fair, like, yeah, but LIBOR is really good if you're into finance. I'm also in the student government at Rutgers. So I really like that. It works on advocating for needs for students. It works on different projects. Like I think something that we worked on this past year was meeting with the administration about getting pass-fail and divestment from fossil fuels. So yeah, I really like that. It's a good way to be a resource to students. And like I mentioned before, I'm in the Center for Women in Business, which is relatively new to the business school, but that's a really good way to just connect, I think, with people. They have really good networking opportunities and they put on like seminars about just different things like how to manage your money, diversity in the workplace, like, yeah, but there are like 400 clubs at Rutgers. So I can't give you the perfect answer. It's really about experimenting, I think. I've been in so many clubs throughout my college career, but there are like few that I've stuck with until the end, and I'm sure it'll be kind of similar for you guys.
To add on to that, it's kind of been similar for me in terms of joining a bunch of clubs and only sticking to a few. There are over 500 clubs at Rutgers, and for that reason, you can find literally any club if for your interests. If you have an interest that like only a few other people have, you can either join a club for that or even start your own club, as some of my friends have done. So definitely take advantage of learning about the different clubs that Rutgers has, because there are so many. Personally, like I would say LIBOR has helped me a lot, but it all really depends on your interests. So if you have some interest that's completely unrelated to business, completely unrelated to your career, you should definitely still pursue that club, because if you get a leadership opportunity in that club and join the e-board and eventually make your way up to, let's say, vice president or president, that looks great on your resume, especially as a freshman or sophomore who doesn't have any internship experience yet. So that's kind of your way into having some sort of experience. Getting onto the e-board of clubs that you're really passionate about is a great way to set yourself apart from other applicants.
Ron,
Great,
we
thanks,
got a
Kid.
question.
Yeah.
We got a question about how competitive is the Road to Wall Street program to get into with the number of applicants compared to the number accepted?
Yeah, I don't know the number of applicants, but I do know we get many more applicants than we have seats. So it is fairly competitive. From that, we actually opened up other Road to programs. So we have the Road to Wall Street, but we also have the Road to Silicon Valley. We have a new one called the Road to CPA for our accountants. Two of them are very competitive. The accountant one doesn't have a restriction because it's really geared towards people getting their CPA. It's a little different, but they are getting very competitive. So yeah, I don't know how many applicants came in. I know it was more than we accepted. My gut tells me it may have been twice as many, if not more, because it's not just finance people. It's around the whole university. So we have a chemistry major that is involved in the Road to Wall Street. So, but if you don't get in things, right? One of the great things that you're going to learn is rejection is not a bad thing. You need to have failures in life. And if you don't get into one thing, you'll get into another thing. One of my best students that I've have this year, and she is just phenomenal. She got rejected to join this club. Not every club takes everybody, but she has done so many other things. So she saw that rejection as an opportunity to get better. So it happens, you know, when you get to college, it's a little different than high school. I taught high school for 10 years in my life also. And it's different. It's more competitive, and you got to deal with it. Ariane, I see you got your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yes, this is Arian's dad. I had a question about the student life. For the students, how has been your experience like as far as commuting? Because I believe that most of the classes for finance will be in the Livingston campus, I believe, and the dorm could be any of the other campuses, right? So how has been the experience commuting wise, going to the classes and from different like Douglas to Livingston and all that?
That's a good question. Because I think that's also something that's very specific to Rutgers. We're so big. It's been interesting. You come in as a freshman, it's a little scary getting to know all the buses, but after your first week, you really get to know them like the back of your hand. And I think the buses, like I have friends at other schools that say, oh, like I just wake up out of bed, walk to class, it's a 5-minute walk. But the buses and the Rutgers, how it works, having class on Livingston and living on College Ave, like it's helped me so much with my time management, which is definitely something I didn't have in high school. So I guess that's a perk. But yeah, it's also, I kind of look at it as a good thing. Bus rides are fun. Like you get to meet people, you get to meet friends. I think it's just like another, I don't know, those commutes and everything, they almost act like another like networking opportunity.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And they're just to kind of give some more information. So there is an app that the students can put on on their phone so that they know exactly when the buses are arriving. So even if you're commuting from one campus to another, it is going to help with your time management skills for students who also get internships as they get into their junior and senior year. They'll say they're not afraid of mass transit because they've been doing it as a freshman. So we are giving you that experiential learning. You're going to set your alarm. You're going to wake up earlier. You're going to know how to navigate mass transit. And so some of our students, they're not afraid to take those opportunities somewhere else because they've navigated it. So you really learn how to put that backpack on and just burrow your way onto the bus. It is one of the grit that really separates the Rutgers student from the rest of the pack.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm looking at the chat. Two things. I see the one question was, has COVID affected the courses? And I saw Gabe, you answered. It really hasn't affected the courses, but we did a conference that we sponsored, and we were able to get a Nobel Prize winning economist involved. Richard Thaler, who's at University of Chicago, and I co-chaired the conference. And we did have an economist come on and talk about the effect of the pandemic and how the stock analysts had it actually had forecasted things a lot better than maybe the medical community did when you looked at what had happened during the pandemic. So we had a nice little discussion of that at this conference. That was kind of cool. And I saw there was a question on personal finance. So we do not teach personal finance within the financial curriculum per se. Now we do talk about investments, which is personal finance. We talk about stocks and bonds and things like that. So that all is relatable to personal finance. I just started a new class, which is a general ed class called Personal Financial Planning. That's where Hira and I get to team up on Tuesdays and Thursdays in class together. And that kind of takes you through a lot of personal finance issues. It doesn't count towards the major, but it gives you good information on things that you're going to use in your life. But the idea of, if you look at finance as balancing out risk and reward, you will get that information. And I do that a lot for my clients. I mean, that's what I spend all day with my clients about. So it's not specific on personal finance, but it definitely impacts that.
We got another question, Ron. So besides the road to Wall Street, does road to Silicon Valley and LIBOR and other business clubs accept transfer students as they come in as a junior?
All right, so I don't know, and I don't know if you know, Christine, on road to Silicon Valley, I'm not sure. Maybe you could look it up on the website and maybe they'll have something on there.
I think they do. I remember Mukesh talking about it. I think they accept transfer.
They do, yeah. See, the problem with road to Wall Street, it's a 2.5 to 3 year cohort group that we want to keep together. That's where it kind of screws with the transfers. I apologize for that. But the other clubs, yeah, the clubs are open, right? The clubs are open for transfers. So LIBOR does accept transfers, as do many of the clubs at Rutgers University, not just the business clubs, but the clubs that are outside of the business school, those 400 or 500 clubs that Gabe talked about. You know, my son is now in grad school, but when we were looking at colleges, we went to Penn State, which I should even tell Christine I said that, but we went to Penn State, and I thought the gal who gave us the who gave us the tour gave great advice to my son and the other people, which was, she said, why don't you join 2 clubs? Join one club in the area that you're studying, and then join another club in an area you have passion. Like if you like volleyball, join the volleyball club, right? If you like music, if you like rock and roll music, join the rock and roll music club, right? That's the one I would probably join. With all of that, the point is, as Gabe said, getting leadership experiences. You don't have to be in a business club to get leadership experiences. All the clubs have leadership experiences. So when you get to college, you know, you got to find things you have passion for. And you never know where they're going to lead, right? So, so think about that. I think when I taught high school, my students in high school did a ton of clubs. They had quantity, but not quality, right? They joined 8 clubs. They put it on their application for college, thinking that 8 would be a good number. In college, I think what you'll find is you'll do less, but you'll go deeper, right? And that's what you really want to do, I think, when you get to college. Look at the journey. It's a little different, so.
I'm going to go one better, Ron. So our Rutgers students say, this is from RBS students on my panels every single time, follow a rule of 3 when it comes to involvement. Join something that aligns with your major, something business oriented if you're in the business school. Secondly, join something you have an interest in, or like you said, a passion, whether it's athletic, philanthropic, religious, whatever it is. Lastly, try to get a job on campus, whether you're an ambassador, whether you're assisting a professor, because now you're diversifying your circle, you're networking, you're doing all these things. So we are better than those Penn State people out there in Happy Valley, because we follow a rule of 3, not just 2. 3 is better than 2.
You're going to have me saying we are Rutgers. So. I think one of the key things here, and Gabe, I'll say it, and then you can tell them what you think. When you get to college, it's about the experience, right? And as Christine said, it's about meeting people. You need to expand your network. That network will get you so far. And you've got to develop it yourself.
Something else when it comes to clubs too, I think, is when get to your junior year, senior year, and you're applying for jobs, yeah, you're going to need to network, obviously. But when it comes to interviewing, a bunch of questions will be behavioral, and they'll be, tell me about a time you solved an issue that was challenging, something like that. Just to tell me about a time question. It really helps to have experience from clubs to answer those questions. I think all of my like behavioral answers have come from club experience, and they're really specific and they're good stories, which is why it makes the interview better, as opposed to if I just said like, oh, well, in class I was working on a project and this and this and this.
Right. Everybody goes to class. Well, everybody should go to class. Not everybody goes to class. But the point is, all those other outside activities, those are what's going to make you different. Then you got to figure out what those differentiators are. Right.
We got a question asking if you could expand a little bit more about the personal finance course and when that's offered.
So we just started it this past semester, and we're doing it again next semester. So I had a pretty good turnout for the first group. We'll see what happens for the second group. What I do is I take you through all the aspects of financial planning or personal finance. So we take you through budgeting, we take you through taxes, we take you through estate planning, retirement planning, investment planning, insurance planning, all these different aspects of personal finance. We actually are using some financial planning software in the class. Actually, it's the same software I use for my clients, just happens to be that way. So kind of, and I've had students actually use that software for themselves or even for their parents. That has happened over in some of the other courses that I taught. So it's really to give you a introduction to financial planning and all the different aspects. But I think it's a good course that is real. You will find it'll take some courses in college and maybe here and Gabe. Have you ever taken a course where you sit back and go like, why am I even have to take this course? That ever happened? Right? Some of these required things, maybe not in the business school, but maybe at the School of Arts and Sciences. The personal financial planning course is real. Those decisions that here and Gabe are going to make when they get out of here related to their 401k investment, or now having to buy insurance and do things on their own. To me, we could call it the adulting class. It's good enough, right?
You should.
Just call it adulting 101.
Yes, adulting. Honestly, you might get more signups just because people will like the name.
Right. What is this adulting? That's a good idea. Caitlin, is that good? Or did you, and when's it offered? We have one prereq for it, and that prereq is financial management. So we do make sure that you understand what we call time value of money calculations, because we use that a lot in personal finance. So most people taking it's going to be their junior or senior year. Cool. Thanks, Caitlin. No problem. I did want to chat out to you. If anyone, let me put this in the chat. I don't think I did. Hold on a second. Let me get it there. I just chatted out the website for the finance curriculum. So all those PowerPoints that I had, if you go there, it's the same stuff. And I'll just chat this out one more time. This is my email address. Make sure I spelled it right. There we go. That's my email address. Always feel free to email me if you want.
You can put mine in the chat too. Oh yeah, I just see someone asking. Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat. If you think of questions later, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thanks here.
I'll do the same, and I'll also put my LinkedIn. For those of you who don't have a LinkedIn, you should make one. It's going to be pivotal to your success in the business world.
And we will assist you with that through the Office of Career Management. So don't worry if you don't have one. We do all things at RBS. We get it all done for you.
Great. Awesome. Any other questions from our high school students? Do we have anyone from Franklin High here? Anyone from Franklin? Raise your hand if you're from Franklin. That's where I taught for all those years. Nope. Any FBLAers? Anyone a future business leader? Antonio, what school?
I go to school in Virginia. I went to Allen High School.
Okay, in Virginia. Okay. All
yeah,
right. So
I don't really have many members, but
that's all right.
We tried.
That's where the home office of FBLA is. The
Oh, really?
national- Yeah, it's in Reston.
Oh, yeah. I went
Yeah.
there once for a conference.
Okay, yes, in Reston, Virginia. Cool.
Cool.
So you're in Virginia now? Or are you in New Jersey?
Yeah, right now. I've been out of school for a while though.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're from Virginia.
No, I'm not from Virginia. I was born actually in New Brunswick and St. Peter's.
Ah, that's where my
Yeah.
kids were born.
I was born
Yeah.
there too.
That's why I'm going to Rutgers mainly.
Okay. Because you were born in St. Peter's. Good.
Yeah.
Arian, you're in FBLA or what school, Arian?
I go to Sayreville.
Sayreville. So you know Mr. Howard?
Oh yeah, I know Mr. Howard. Yeah, he was my teacher sophomore year.
I love Mr. Howard.
He's nice. I like him.
Were you on the FBLA state board this year?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't. Okay. Yeah. I love Mr. Howard. Oh, he's so cool. Cool dude. Cool. All right. What do you think, Christine? How we doing?
We're at 7:31, so if there are no other questions, I guess we will wrap up.
Cool.
So thank you guys for attending. This session is being recorded. It will be posted by tomorrow on the Rutgers Business School webpage. So if you want to go back, you can go back and replay the recording and listen to all of the wonderful words of advice. Thank you to our current students who took their time out tonight and gave us advice. Thank you for you admitted students for logging on. This is the last of our series, but all of the content is on the business school website. And I believe the weekends recordings will hopefully be up by Friday. Keep a watch out for those. We will get them posted to our website if you missed the open house for this weekend. So we've got about T-minus 16 days or so till decision day. So what am I going to say? Hit that button. And hopefully we will see you in September. We look forward to it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay. Take care, guys. Thanks, here.
Bye.
Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Bye.